You'll be back every year. That's happened. What? Why do I look good? No, I'm not. Thank
Hey, good evening, folks. Hopefully everybody can hear this thing. We had a little speaker issue today, but we think we got it corrected. We don't want to interrupt dinner. We think this is exactly what we pitched 4 or 5 years ago when we got this idea. So we're thrilled tonight, and we're thrilled to be here in person for sure. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Rich Saprak. I'm the athletic director for now. Maybe more events like this will take care of that. But we're really happy to see this many people here. Every one of these has been well received, and seeing the mixture of people that are here is fantastic. So we're going to do some things while you're still eating. There's not a rush to finish eating. Actually, a big part of this was to have people together face-to-face 5 years ago talking about our history. So we'd rather have you talking than listen to us talk or this whole thing. So we want to hang around. We're not going to rush through stuff. Some of our inductees said they're not going to say much, but we have a history of that going bad too when they get up here. So we got the hook. Jeff's the hook. All right. So just a couple quick announcements while you're eating there. And actually, there's more food up there. Please go get it. We'll talk more about our servers in a bit. We want to make sure this is our first time getting outside of a school building doing this, and we learned something valuable. This is well worth it. So we want to thank the chefs, Kristen and Chef Matt, and great job. Food's great. I haven't eaten, but it looks good. And the Crown Point Country Club Women's League. So Jessica writes it. I read it. So some of this I could. All right. We'll come back to that. The Springfield High School Alumni Association gets involved with us here with some things. We're thrilled to have him Springfield Parks and Rec gets involved. A lot of the alumni stuff is at Parks and Rec, and Andy is always open to get us in there and get that stuff, and has some stuff he's passing on to us. The Springfield Booster Club participates with this. The Booster Club participates in everything, but Merch will talk more about that. Our bigger sponsors, which are important to get this done. This is a break-even deal. We don't try to make money here. It's a break-even deal. And when we break even, we're pretty happy. But Jerry Farnham, State Farm Insurance, they couldn't make it tonight, a big sponsor. Those big ads in the book, they pay for that to be there. We're not just nice people. Paul Kendall, Lawrence and Wheeler, a division of the Richards Group, so I read it properly, and the Gurney Brothers. When we started, and we said we can't have a booklet without the giant G on the back. It didn't take long for them to jump on board with that. So Lawrence and Wheeler is important because forever, if you guys are all Springfield folks, when you write an ad, these are the people who's donated over and over and over again to keep our programs going. So we thank them. They're important to us. So a few other folks here we want to recognize. First, Rod Arnold. Rod is a great supporter. He's hiding, but when we started this, when we send out the press release, we send it to 3 or 4 newspapers, and we put it in there clearly that you can't print until this date. And that's the way Rod can print it first. We think it's important that Springfield Reporter has a first run at our athletics. So Rod's been great and a great supporter for what we're doing. A few other folks we want to recognize that are here and show how important it does spread through the town. New town manager, Jeff Mobus, is here somewhere. Raise your hand, Jeff. Again, like me, so far so good. So we'll see. And also a guy who should be doing the MC in here. We keep begging him. Bob Flint, Springfield Regional. Thanks, Bob. Bob will be up later. Okay, so the whole theme we worked on this year, and we started on this way back last year to focus on Title IX. We kind of got a laugh out of seeing the Super Bowl and all these places going into Title IX. We talked about this 2 years ago, but every inductee this year is tied to Title IX, and the teams. It's important. So as we go through, just keep that in mind, how important Title IX, and I'm sure many of our female athletes and committee members will speak on that too. All right. So sticking with the plan, because I never do, we want to take a moment of silence, if you would, please, for many Cosmos that we probably lost since our last banquet. And one, we don't generally get into names, but I think one I do have to recognize was one of our first, second person I got involved with this, and he jumped through a wall to get part of this, and that's Jerry Jasinski. We definitely miss Jerry at our meetings. He certainly kept us on our toes. All right, so just a moment for those folks, please. We know there's plenty of folks that are important to this athletic community and the community itself. Despite what people think, it's a great place to live, and we have a lot of good things going on. We got to keep it. All right. I got to see what Jess is doing. Hold on a second. Okay. So this is the first year. Everything takes time to build, and we wanted to make sure this year I got further away from it. The role of the athletic director is to keep this going. It's actually in the job description put in by the school board. We went there to get this approved, and we asked that be part of the job description. So for a lot of schools lose their Hall of Fames because the athletic director moves on. So here it will continue, and I put a committee together that is going to make sure it continues. There's no question on that. So this is the first year that we had a chair. The chair ran the meetings, and she ran the meetings. And I'm kind of the sign-off person. When they get this all together, I sit down and read through stuff with them, and we say, we sure about this? We sure about this? And not to make light of it, but we really put a lot of work into this. If you're being inducted, you earned it. and there's a lot of research. We dig and dig and dig. And a lot of stuff we get back, yeah, maybe it's not as true as the people who nominated you. But we take time to verify stuff. We reach out to a lot of people. So congratulations to anybody coming in here. You earned it. It wasn't just a gift because somebody liked you. We actually start with as many as 30 to 40 names every year and work them down. So, all right. So the chairman of that group, Miss Springfield on the move, and along, there's certain names in town, you have to know them when you move here. And immediately I learned the Partridge name, and another story of that later. And of course, at the time, Clint Martin. And of course, Clint Martin's daughter is our chair, Jessica, the original member of this committee.
Good evening. That was a lot nicer introduction from Rich than I was anticipating. He told me I was the chair because I was the last original member. Yeah. But thank you, seriously. We've been working on this class for over 2 years now. Last year we started it with Coach Nicholson, and I'm really happy that she's here this evening with her team. Thank you. I would like to acknowledge the rest of our committee. Joan Chaffee, class of 1986. Jeff Murchie, class of 1969. Hugh Putnam, class of 1960. And Butch Stearns, class of 1966. And then we got Sapak over here, and it's debatable whether or not he's got any class. No. He's our director of athletics, and I can tell you, I don't think we could have had anyone better at the helm for that for COVID-19. Thank you, Rich. As you mentioned, we began talking about the focus of this class 2 years ago, and how could we give recognition to the 50th anniversary of Title IX, which is civil rights legislation. Its purpose was to ensure equal opportunity and access to programs, activities, and employment at educational institutions that received federal funding. Provisions of Title IX specific to sport include equal opportunity to participate in sport, receive scholarship funding, access to facilities, equipment, coaching, and support services. Several of our inductees implemented these provisions here in Springfield and throughout New England. I really can't wait for you to hear about this. I'm excited about it. But Rich alluded to this. Little did we realize when we started this how challenging it was going to be to get accurate and reliable information on girls' sports and athletes, particularly before 1972. We received many nominations for individuals that, by word of mouth, should certainly be considered. But despite hours upon hours spent researching decades of yearbooks, newspapers, and even reaching out to individuals from surrounding towns to help us on our fact-finding mission, we just could not find documentation to support people's recollections. And this might come as a surprise to some of you, but I'm a little bit of a stickler for accurate information. The committee now knows. So, to those student athletes, coaches, support staff, everyone who contributed to girls' athletics before Title IX, we thank you and appreciate your efforts and all that you have done. Today, we can all have a part in continuing to move equality in sport forward. The day will come when a phrase like, "you throw like a girl," isn't considered a put down but is a compliment. We will eventually not hear announcements like, there's the first female official or coach in men's sporting events. Leagues and teams will no longer be segregated by a W and no M in front of the league, like the NBA and WNBA currently do. Mascots and team names will not be separated. Dare I hope that Springfield's Lady Cosmos will simply become the Cosmos. And someday, women coaches and support staff for men's teams will be commonplace. All of our 2022 inductees have played a part in these eventualities becoming realities. To each of this year's class members, your impact on those that you've known personally is significant. However, I doubt you realize how far of a reach you have had. The 1925 girls basketball team and Amelia Zelonko. I suspect no one here really knows too much about them. From 100 years ago. Wait until you hear what Hugh has to say about them. Coach Nicholson, you and your 1974 softball state champs. Talk about a first. Jessica, Mike, Heather, Larry, and Patty, you have all helped clear the path for so many, including myself. Next up to the podium is Jeff Murchie. Some of you may have different names for him, like, hey ref, clean those glasses. Or Murch, are you ever gonna call a foul? But for almost 35 years now, I have gotten to call him Coach. Coach, where you at, Murch? Yep, you're up. Oh, good. Feel free to heckle. Jeff Murchie.
I'd like to thank you for that glowing introduction. So, how's that? We good? I am the shortest person on the committee. I really am. I'm here not to speak about the folks who are being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm actually here to talk about a couple of community assets that we sometimes forget about. I'm here to talk about the Springfield Cosmo Booster Club and the president, Rachel Hunter. Before I start, do we have anybody in the audience who was perhaps an officer in the Booster Club at some point? Yes, there she is right there. Stand up so we can applaud. Thank you very much. One of the things we kind of need to keep in mind, if we could, the Booster Club obviously is just a group of volunteers. There's obviously a president, sometimes another officer, and they kind of basically go out and they get other volunteers. They kind of scratch and dig, and they dig up money. They get sponsors. I'm getting away from the mic, aren't I? They get sponsors for different things, and they recognize athletes on a year-round basis every season. And in their, I want to say, line of work, and what they do, it's kind of important for those of us who aren't in the Booster Club to, when they reach out to one of us, just tap you on the shoulder and say, can you help with, it's good that if we can find an hour or two or three to help with whatever program they're asking you about. Another thing is the Cosmo memorabilia. A lot of events you'll see Rachel and Dee and some other good people selling Cosmo stuff, you know, hats, shirts, coffee mugs. And it might not be something that you need or after, but this is how they make their money. And we all have that Christmas list in the back of our head. You probably know somebody that would like a Cosmo sweatshirt or a coffee mug or things like that. When you see somebody selling this stuff, if you have any inclination at all, buy something, you know, that's how they make the money. I tried to find a list of past presidents of the Booster Club. It turns out that's a daunting task beyond me. But I know Julie Brady preceded Rachel as the president. And over the years, like I said, it's been a bit of a struggle sometimes. Sometimes they get a lot of volunteers, sometimes they do not. But as I said, anytime any of us can pitch in and help, that's always a good thing. I do have some of the highlights that have happened under Rachel. Well, she's been president. They bought new bleachers down at Riverside, at least a couple of them. 2 sets of new soccer goals. A new pitching machine, and the screens go along with it. They got new goal posts. Those are always a handy thing. I think Todd Aiken can attest to that. New wall mats and banners down at Riverside Gym. They helped a lot in getting the gymnasium spruced up to look as nice as it does now. State championship jackets for those kids who wound up winning the championship. And this is a stroke of genius. And I don't know who came up with this, and I don't really care. I applaud them. Gurney Field Day. Gurney Field Day is one of the nicest things that anybody has ever come up with. And I think it's absolutely great because it really celebrates Cosmos all the way from this size all the way up to here, you know, and it's great. It's great. And it's a well-run and well-attended community event. The pandemic kind of shot us down for a while, but I believe shortly we'll be able to go back to that, you think? Yep. We're on for this year in May, if I remember right. In May, we'll have the Gurney Field Days, okay? It's a day-long affair, a lot of stuff going on besides ball games. I'll probably be umpiring something and getting yelled at in the process. So I don't want to chew up too much time. Basically, I just want to remind people about the good things that the Springfield Booster Club does. And if at all you can help, it's greatly appreciated. And so one last thing I would like to do is to thank the lady who's done so much hard work in the last few years to bring the Booster Club up to where it is and accomplished all that they have. Rachel Hunter, can you stand up for a minute? I'm sure Rachel would tell you that Dee is always on her right hand almost everywhere she goes. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. I hope you all have a good time this evening. I know I am so far. These folks right here, they don't know it, but they'll be starting the mosh pit that gets me back over to there. And thank you very much.
All right. So, and a big point of what Jeff was getting to is that not only does the Booster Club do great things for our school and always has, is that it's mainly run by women. And this goes back to the theme here of Title IX. A lot of things are being done by women today, not by the guys. Good job, Jeff. We plan this stuff out as it goes well, as we always think. So, as we get rolling here, we're a little bit behind, but you know what? As we said, these things always go behind. A little bit. Hugh Putman came into this group the second year. We needed a historian, and this was pretty easy. And Hugh didn't hesitate to join us. We joke with Hugh because he's kind of in charge of walking the cemeteries looking for people to bring into the group. But we all have our errors we work on. Hugh did a huge, the presentation Hugh's about to make about pre-Title IX teams in women's sports in Springfield. I read it and I was like, I don't know if I want to do this. I think I want to record it separately and just put it on. It's a fantastic piece, but we're going to do it live. And if we don't get a good one, we're going to do it again to make sure this gets recorded because Hugh put a lot of time in and Hugh does a great job. Hugh Putman. I'm going to try to keep the pictures moving for him. We'll see how that goes.
Nice to see such a big crowd. Okay, I guess I don't need those. I've been asked to talk about girls' sports prior to Title IX, but most of this is going to be about the early days, a long time before Title IX. The newspapers, including the school papers, the Echo and the Greenhorn, plus the Springfield Reporter, give very little coverage to girls' sports. One exception was girls' basketball when they were winning. If they weren't winning, there was very little coverage. Intramurals were the primary force of girls' education in the early years, right up through into the 60s. They were under the direction of the physical education director and were the primary chance for girls to participate in sports. They played either on the third floor of the Park Street School, which is gone. They took that off, or the town hall, which used to be one floor, and the community house. In 1929, an addition was put onto Park Street, and with the Park Street gym, they had even more facilities. The girls played mainly at noon hour, which was 60 minutes in those days. And some of the sports that they did were archery, volleyball, soccer, and of course, basketball. In the fall of 1919, the girls got the use of the gymnasium at the community house, just like the boys. It played a big part in the girls' sports, and basketball and bowling were the two of the most prominent. For those who don't remember, there are bowling alleys at the community house, candlepin bowling. In February of 1921 issue of the Echo, those who don't know, that was the school newspaper before the Greenhorn, we find the following. Girls basketball practice started about a month ago under the supervision of Coach Vance. 2 games had been scheduled with Windsor. Games were pending with Chester, Claremont, and Rutland. In the end, the girls played 5 games, winning 2 and losing 3. Until more recent times, basketball was the primary inter-school sport for girls. You have to remember the girls' basketball in those days was different. The games were nothing like what we have today. There were 6 girls to a team. There were 2 forwards in the center and 2 guards. The 2 forwards in the center were on one side, and the opposing team's guards were on that side, and the offense the same the other way. The number of dribbles was limited. Only vertical blocking was allowed, no putting your hands out, only up. And they played 7 or 8 minute quarters with 2 minutes between quarters, 10 minutes for a half, and no coaching was allowed except at halftime. So these girls are sent to the floor pretty much on their own. Early on, there was great concern among many organizations and others that basketball was too taxing for the female sex. Numerous groups tried over the years to stop the girls from playing, particularly in tournaments, and limit the physical activity in the games. The girls' New England tournament was established in Windsor by the Windsor Rotary Club in 1923. The Springfield girls were runners-up in the 1924 tournament, losing in the final game to Burlington 19-17. 2 Springfield girls made the first all-New England team, and another made the second team. Then in 1925, they became the New England champions, beating Keene, New Hampshire in the final game. Despite winning the tournament, only 1 girl made the all-tourney team. After the tournament, the girls, and listen to this, were given a tour of the Vermont State Prison. Now, I find it interesting that they didn't want the girls to exercise a lot, but it was all right if they could tour the prison, and they did tour apparently the execution room. That year they had a record of 7 wins and 3 losses. The next year, in February of 1926, the girls started demanding to play in short sleeve V-neck jerseys and regulation shorts generally worn by the boys. Up to that time, they had to wear bloomers and baggy shirts with long sleeves. Their coach emphatically was against this, but unfortunately for her, she went out of town for the weekend. The players ordered the shirts and the pants and wore them at the next game. The town went crazy that such an outrageous thing could happen in Springfield, that the girls would ever consider appearing in such costumes. But the girls said they were no different than wearing bathing suits and persisted and continued to wear them. That year, Springfield was eliminated in the first round of the tourney, but the 3rd straight year, Springfield had a girl on the first all-tourney team. The Springfield girl was also awarded the most valuable all-round player of the tourney. Despite their previous success, the good years were over for a while. After 1926, no mention is made of Springfield competing in the Windsor tournament before it was discontinued in 1937. Again, the reason for discontinuing the tournament was that it was not suitable for girls. This was also the year that physical education was eliminated in the Springfield school system due to the Depression, and sports virtually came to a halt, both intramurals and inter-school. But then in 1938-1939 season, Springfield won 2 and lost 8 games with 1 tie. But there was signs of hope for the future. Now, these ties, you have to remember, the girls weren't allowed to play at, any extra. The length of the game was enough, and if it ended in a tie, it ended in a tie. The next year, they won 7 and lost 3 and tied 1. the best record Springfield had in many years. During the 1940-41 season, interest in basketball and field hockey under Coach Fleming was rising. During the regular season, they played 12 basketball games and winning 7 and losing 3 with 1 tie. Because 6 members were leaving for the first time, they had a JV team, but I could find not one word written about the field hockey team. During the war with transportation, limited intramurals returned and were played at noon. They played basketball at noon, and the galleries at Park Street were filled with boys watching them play. The girls really appreciated the attention. Softball also started appearing as a sport at that time. During the years following the war, little appears about girls' sports. The girls, however, still had a continuing basketball team, winning 2 and losing 4 in 1945, and in 1946, winning 1 and losing 5. Even then, intramurals were assumed to be the primary opportunity for girls to play sports. From 1948 through 1957, no girls' sports are mentioned in the school yearbook except intramurals. But starting in 1957, golf, tennis, and in 1966, gymnastics start to appear in the yearbook. Field hockey appears in 1969, and the sports, quote, were designed to help the girls appreciate teamwork and to become better sports. In 1965-66, the girls played 16 basketball games, winning 16 and losing 4, but there were no tournaments. In the spring of 1969, the girls had a softball team and played an 8-game schedule. Girls were also doing intramural gymnastics, working on intermediate skills. By the fall of '71, the girls were playing other schools in field hockey with a record of 0-8-2. This year, the girls formed, I found this interesting, 2 football teams called the Lemons and the Limes. They played against each other to raise money for the yearbook. This was the first year that girls had an official state basketball tournament. Springfield did not compete because they had a 3-11 season. The girls' ski team that year placed 4th in cross country and placed 8th in alpine events. Springfield had been playing tennis since 1970, and in 1973 they were undefeated. They also had a good softball team. For the first time, they had girls track with 12 girls, and gymnastics team was to start playing in 1974. In 1972, Title IX came into effect, and it changed the landscape for girls' sports. And as we are going to honor tonight, the 1974 softball team was the first to win a state championship after Title IX. But tonight we are also honoring the SHS team that won the 1925 All New England basketball. That's not it. That's a 96 team, 2016. There we go. I'm going to read this. That year, with 14 wins and 3 losses, they had gone all the way to the New England title. They had been to the tourney before, but this time Springfield came out on top. In the first game, they defeated Manchester, New Hampshire, 13-6. In In the semifinal game, they defeated Springfield, Mass. 23-5. In the finals, they faced a strong Keene, New Hampshire team, winning 17-14. They were presented with a big silver cup, which we can't find. The headline in the paper described the winner as the New England basketball champions. This is the first such accolade for a Springfield girls team and put Springfield on the map in New England girls basketball. The team was made up of 8 girls, 5 seniors, and 3 juniors. And starting, I got their names. Standing in the back are Bernice Bannister, Caroline Parison, Amelia Zolanko, Helen LaVenture, and Coach Dorothy Fleming. Seated are Latonia Zolanko, Marjorie Baker, Rena King, Caroline Barnini, and Constantine Barnini. In the tournament, they scored 22 baskets to their opposition's 3. Tonight, we are also, look at one more. Tonight, we are also inducting Amelia Zolanko into the Springfield Hall of Fame. The pictures are terrible because they're copied out of the newspaper. It's the best we had. She was one of Springfield's star players for the 3 years prior to her graduation in 1925. She was team captain during the 23-24 season. Amelia played center and with Rena King scored many of the team's points. She was considered one of the best pivots in Vermont. Another word for center. You know what I mean. In the spring of 1926, Amelia, as a freshman at UVM, was chosen to the UVM All-Star basketball team. This was considered very unusual to honor a freshman inductee and was indicative of her great ability. The paper described her as one of the most outstanding girl athletes ever sent out of Springfield High School. Amelia graduated from UVM in 1929 with a degree in literary science. She married in 1928, had 4 children, and died in Los Angeles, California in 1982. Tonight, we welcome both the 1925 girls basketball team and Amelia Zolanko into the SHS Hall of Fame.
All right, and that's why I said we want to make sure we got all that. That's pretty good, and I think you probably can go on. I know he gets. They get this time frame for me, and he had a funny comment. I read the first one. I have more, but Rich said this is all the time I get. So the history is important, and this is the kind of work we do to make sure we got the right stuff. So again, if you're being inducted in this Hall of Fame, we know all about you. Some stuff we don't want to know, but we seem to find it. All right, so one thing we don't have here tonight, unfortunately, we have the team plaques, because they're doing a little different. It's the first year we inducted teams. We don't have the individual plaques that you probably saw a picture of the Hall of Fame at one point that are etched. And now I'm thinking, listen to you, they come from a person in Keene, and maybe they heard about this tonight and said, we're not going to give them any plaques since they're honoring beating the Keene team. But anyhow, they do get up. If you haven't been to the high school where this wall is, you all know where it is. You walk by it many times. It's right outside the office. Every student in our high school walks by this wall of fame every day. And from my office, sometimes I hear kids say, I want to be on there. Well, we want you to be on there. So let's keep working towards that. So we're going to take just a quick break, then we'll get started so everybody can stretch their mouth a little bit. If anybody needs anything else, food, I think there's some more food up there. Is it still out there? Yeah. And then we'll get on with the main event here. That's what's gonna be on the wall.
Oh,
And then as we introduce the team, I think that's we're gonna have everybody.
so
So I'll introduce
after I
you, let's say
do
right
the
there.
Title IX, then I sit down.
No, I think we'll have you go and introduce you, you'll have you introduce the team. You're a member
Okay.
and we think it's important.
Okay,
I think obviously your girls.
okay, great. I prepared something.
Take your time. You know, when we start these things, we have these ideas, we work around those committees, we go, we count this backwards, how much time we said. And then in the end, we go, who cares? It's your night, enjoy it. The first night we were on, and the very last person, people were still there, it was a youth man track coach, and he had Gunderson's gold medal and spikes. He brought with him. It's like, it's so cool, you know?
It is.
And it's kind of nice to like find folks like you that really kind of washed away. You forget about it, you know? And obviously Title now is a big part of that. But still, you know, there's so many pieces when we talk to people, we bring up names, and that's how we found it. Like, who's that? Well, it's pretty impressive for that kind of person.
Very much.
Because after he
And your bar to do some business. Actually, this is better than we expected.
picture of
That's a good crowd tonight.
The first one, we had 157 at the high school. And then the second one, 108. It's kind of a bad time or something. And the third one, of course, was last year. Would have been a great crowd, I think, and unfortunately, Tom Lovett died just in Florida. That was unfortunate. What a great guy he was. Then we're going to finish tonight with a couple of things that nobody knows. It's very, very nice stuff, actually. That's, again, aimed at women's sports. Because in Vermont, I've been called the women's sports and
Great.
everything. When I come in, I'm at a rotary going, well, our girls have as good uniform as the boys. I have two daughters in play sports. They're going to have great uniforms. And actually, we mentioned that our girls' sports are much better than our boys. And nobody knows the difference, so we don't treat it like, you know, we're doing something special. The girls just went up to Swanton for a game, and they said, well, we want a charter. I said, no, the boys want a yellow bus, so do you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I didn't like that part of it.
Yeah.
So
Fair's fair.
I think it's kind of, I graduated in 1974 in New York. And I, you know, read your bio background, and I looked at some of the people that the women teachers that I had. It was like so similar, you know, strong, pushing forward, the teachers are strong, and you know, you don't think of that. When you look back, it's amazing what you did at the time.
Yeah. Time was right.
Yeah.
I was just like 2 days ago, we were ranking the
Well, I just wanted to get set up.
Oh, you're good. Stay right here because we'll do it from right here. I'm not going to go on. I'm a winger. I write it down and then I study here and I go, well, I can't keep track. I'm going to introduce a couple Hall of Fame members that are here in the family. And I guess Mary Rose's relative or somebody's going to say after you.
Oh,
Is you going to read a letter or something from Mary Rose?
no. What's going on is I'm going to, that's my Title IX.
Okay.
But then I have, 2 minutes from me. And then Maureen, I'll introduce Maureen Barber. And Maureen has a letter that Mary Rose Dzinski put together from comments from the teammates.
Oh.
And then Maureen added hers, and then so that it reflects.
We don't want that.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll give you that.
And she wrote a great letter with this, the book. Isn't that beautiful?
The tone she took. Happily would be.
Yeah. It's such
the pace that it happens. It's a great way to look at it.
I mean, you had to read the whole letter. You couldn't stop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It's kind of fun because I've really been in touch with Maureen and Mary Rose, coordinating all this. It's been really fun. Nice to get them.
Well, Joni said that, yeah, you were reaching out to people. And actually, I haven't been since Cindy Curry here.
And they gave her tickets to Maureen so that her daughters could come and they were used.
When I was coaching baseball 3 years back, we did an alumni game, and she was there. She was so sorry. We gotta do a softball game. I said, we can do a softball game, but I need somebody to run it. I just, but we never got off it. I think that would have been probably more fun. Yeah, like some guys still think they're young boys running around.
Yeah.
So, all right, let me jump in there. All right, we're going to try to pick it up again. That's great. While we're getting reseated, we are live streaming this. Hopefully the folks at home are enjoying it as much as we are. And we can watch it all tomorrow and see. A couple other folks I want to recognize. If you see some young people here working with us, they have their uniforms on for the sports they play for us in the school. There's 4 that were able to help us tonight. We're hoping for a few more, but things happen. We'll do it backwards here. We introduce the boy first to get him out of the way. Brody Parham, our boys basketball team. A good family of athletes there for sure. Amelia Murchie, Jeff's granddaughter, believe it or not, he has grandkids. Hard to believe. Emma Snyder in her soccer uniform. I think Emma's a captain next year. Are you a captain? I think maybe that's something I know. Never mind. Yeah, Ray will be happy. And actually, so our last person, I want to take a minute to introduce the entire family. But first, Ari Chaffee, who comes from a pretty athletic family around here. Ari's doing our live streaming. Ari is our go-to person for everything, that's for sure. She finds a way to get it done. I want to recognize a few of our Hall of Fame members who are in attendance tonight. Jeff Tapdick, here somewhere. There he is. Those were great nights, great stories that we will not share again. The Chaffee family, Gene is a member. They came in a couple years ago. A great support, of course. That was the same night as Jeff, right? That was a good night. Yep, that was a great night. The next person came in last year, and she'll be making a presentation on her team. As we do this work, we meet some incredible people. This person is one. And what she gave to us last year to make this work, because most of it was online, all of it was online, is amazing. And you could tell that, and I'm trying to think of some of the stories that Tom Haley or Pootie Walsh told about how she would drag them by the ear to the sideline to watch these girls play. And they were serious. And if you ever get to watch that blog, we left it up on the site. Take a listen to that. I think when you look at Title IX, these were the frontier people. Okay, they were handed this and said, "Here you go." And we know they weren't met with great greetings from the male coaches. and they had to fight their way through a lot of things. And certainly in that blog, please watch it. You'll learn a lot of the things they went through. Coach Nancy Nicholson, a Hall of Fame member, right?
Thank you all. I'd like to welcome all of you here this evening as we honor and celebrate the excellence of the 2022 Springfield High School Athletics Hall of Fame inductees, and to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for acknowledging the 50th year anniversary of Title IX. This evening, we are celebrating the only law that grants women any kind of equality in America, Title IX. 50 years ago, Title IX became a federal civil rights law in the United States of America that was passed as part of the Education Amendment of 1972. And I quote, "No person in the United States shall, on the basis of sex, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any educational program or activity receiving federal financial assistance." Essentially, it prohibits sex-based discrimination in any school or other educational program that receives funding from the federal government. So how did we get here? Why did we have to wait for a federal law for equal opportunity for our right to participate in sports on a plane equal to that of men? As I researched this, like many things, it's complicated. Here in the United States, it was the dominant belief in the 1800s that each human had a fixed amount of energy. If this energy were used for physical and intellectual tasks at the same time, it could be hazardous. Women were not encouraged to exert themselves. Many early opportunities for women to engage in physical activity were thwarted by manipulating science to reinforce this incorrect theory. Nevertheless, in the early 1900s, she persisted as more women sought to become involved in physical activity. They became more competitive and formed informal athletic clubs. The popular sports of the day were tennis, croquet, bowling, and archery. Parallel clubs in colleges began to appear, but they frequently sponsored co-ed competition as occasions for social gatherings. Early college sports for women were intramural, played within the college. In the early 1890s, the GAA, or the Girls Athletic Association, was formed across high schools and women's colleges to foster physical activity among young ladies in a social setting. In the gymnasium, the windows were closed and covered as the young ladies played in bloomers, and they were not allowed to keep score in a basketball game. It was play for play's sake. The upside to all of this is that it helped show the world that young ladies could safely be physically active as it was a legitimate concern for the times. Eventually, teams kept score and occasionally had a play day with another girls' athletic association. When I was in high school in New Jersey, 1960 to 64, there were no varsity sports for girls. We had a Girls Athletic Association, a GAA, that consisted of intramurals, and if we were lucky, we had a play day with another school. The director of the club was one of our physical education teachers. The GAA awarded points for participation, and you could earn your GAA pin. I still have my GAA pin. The motto was, every girl in a sport, and a sport for every girl. Women were not active in intercollegiate sports until basketball was introduced at Smith College in 1892. And the game spread quickly to other colleges, and students began to clamor for intercollegiate play. The honor of being the first teams to compete in women's intercollegiate athletics belongs to the basketball teams of the University of California, Berkeley versus Stanford on April 4th, 1896. Bryn Mawr and Vassar's tennis tournament could have been the first intercollegiate competition among women, but it was canceled because the Vassar faculty did not allow their women athletes to participate in competition between colleges. Incidentally, the Stanford won that first basketball game with a score of 2-1. Obviously, there were no ancestors of Mary Rose Jasinski on either team. The women's suffrage movement in the late 19th and early 20th century resulted in the passage of the 19th Amendment, which was passed in 1920. It was women's right to vote. That was just 100 years ago. The right to vote for women renewed emphasis on women's freedoms. Susan B. Anthony was a legendary civil rights leader, and her work helped pave the way for the 19th Amendment. She played a pivotal role in the women's suffrage movement. She said, "Failure is impossible." She was the first woman to be depicted on any United States currency. The Susan B. Anthony $1 coin was the first minted in 1979. One day when I was coaching softball in the 80s, I asked my players to bring $1 to practice the next day. I then traded their dollar for a Susan B. Anthony $1 coin. And as you may have guessed, we then had conversations about aspirations, hopes, dreams, and striving forward. She believed failure is impossible. She believed she could, so she did. Back to our history. This first feminist movement resulted in modest gains for women in sports and intercollegiate competition, but these gains were negated by the Depression in the 30s. This left millions of people out of work. The expectations of society were that a woman's place was, you guessed it, back in the home, which pushed aside the ideas that there were psychological and physiological benefits to be gained from involvement in sport. This view remains largely unchanged until 1940s. The 40s brought World War II to the United States, and millions of men entered the military. Many women joined the military service or left their positions as homemakers to fill the void left in the workforce, earning the moniker Rosie the Riveter. Women demonstrated that they were equal to the task. The self-esteem and self-confidence gained by women during these critical times propelled the movement for equal rights. Many women believed that if they could compete successfully in the workforce, then they could certainly compete on the athletic teams. The pendulum continued to swing in the 50s and 60s. The social consciousness of America was changing. It culminated with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, my high school graduation year. This federal act helped increase the status of women and minorities. Feminist activism propelled the movement for women's rights forward. The United States became embroiled in the debate for the Equal Rights Amendment, still not passed. This debate definitely raised the consciousness of those involved in women's sports. While the difficult takes time, the impossible just takes a little longer. The women's movement in sport was rapidly moving toward a status more in line with men's athletics. This new wave of feminism moved women closer to legislative action for greater equal treatment in athletics. The focus in the 1960s and early 70s was to eliminate sexual discrimination. In 1967, at their first national conference, the National Organization of Women, NOW, adopted a platform that read in part, quote, "The right of women to be educated to their full potential equally with men be secured by federal and state legislation," end quote. Now here's the kicker. Title IX of the Education Amendments of 1972 was paid little attention in the early legislative efforts. It was only after Title IX passed, when the question surrounding implementation arose, that opposition to Title IX took place. Congress then built in a 6-year period for secondary and post-secondary schools to achieve compliance. In 1974, approximately 60 women's and feminist groups formed a coalition. It was largely as a result of their persistence and dedicated efforts through lobbying that Title IX was successful. Here in Vermont, state championship began in 1974. By 1982, all divisions of the National Collegiate Athletic Association, the NCAA, offered national championship events for women's athletics. As a coach, I was very fortunate to coach the Springfield High School softball team in 1974 when we won the first Vermont Class A state championship. In 1974 was also the first year that the Little League formally amended their charter and allowed little girls to participate on baseball teams. In 1982 was the first year the NCAA sponsored the national championships. And in 1982, I coached the Division I University of Wyoming's women's softball team in the College Women's World Series when we played UCLA. UCLA went on to win that national championship. Mary Beth Bursky was a scholarship athlete on that team. Today, the NCAA sponsors 46 women's championships and 41 men's championships. Before Title IX, 1 of 27 girls played sports. Now, 2 of 5 girls play sports. My first 25 years on the planet were prior to Title IX. Now, Title IX is 50 years old, and I am 75. As a young person, we organized our own games in our backyards. As the season changed, the shape of the ball changed. When all the boys in my neighborhood went to Little League baseball, I was not allowed. There were no varsity sports for girls in my public high school in New Jersey. I began teaching and coaching at Springfield High School in 1970. For the first 6 years, I coached field hockey, basketball, softball, varsity, and junior varsity. 6 teams each year with no assistant coach. Our home field for field hockey was the field by the parking lot by Riverside Junior High School, where the spectators stood watching the games. Our basketball court was in the new high school, where spectators sat on chairs that we brought in from the cafeteria. And softball was played on the diamond at Riverside. After Title IX was enacted, field hockey games moved to the football field and basketball games were played at Riverside Gymnasium. Quite an improvement. Mrs. Fogg, who taught at the junior high, was the first field hockey JV coach. And Mr. Buddy Letourneau, who taught at the high school, was the first basketball and softball JV coach. Our uniforms also changed. We had a small budget, so we augmented it through our own fundraising and the sewing expertise of mothers and grandmothers. Field hockey tunics became dark green kilts, and the softball players finally wore knickers. All just another way to add pride to the program. Title IX was a game changer, and this group of young women rose to the occasion and blazed a trail for others to follow. 1974 first softball state championships with a win over Bellows Falls, 9-2. 1975, our only loss of the season at the state championship game with Essex Junction, 9-12. And 1976, a perfect season of 16-0 with a win over Mount Anthony, 11-1. The successes in softball that we had were instrumental in my securing a position at the University of Wyoming teaching and coaching Division I softball. I completed my professional life in education as a high school assistant principal in Sanford, Maine, another SHS high school. In 2006, I was the assistant principal of the year in the state of Maine. As you can see, Title IX afforded me and many young women many opportunities we never would have had. At 61, I retired after surviving breast cancer. Today, I refer to myself as a playologist, one who enjoys sport for the pure joy and fun of it. I want to conclude with a challenge. We certainly have come a long way, but we need to stay on our toes and not on our heels. Title IX is transforming lives. Youth development occurs in many different areas. There are positive associations between sports participation and education, with higher grades and lower dropout rates. Social behaviors enable leadership roles and self-assurance. Athletes and coaches take their tests in public, and that builds character. Playing sports helps girls find success on the field, in the classroom, and in the boardroom. Athletic programs are educational programs. With Title IX, we now provide those opportunities for everyone. And the challenge for us as women is to give back. We got to where we are today from the hard work of other women before us. Sometimes for young girls, they can only be what they see exists. If you can see it, you can be it. Volunteer to help the youth sport. Become an official. Coach a sport. In North Carolina, where I winter, I volunteer as an assistant coach for the LPGA girls golf program with our LPGA coach, Charlene Hurst. Each season, we have 50 to 60 girls aged 6 to 12 learning golf and other valuable lessons. Find people that support your next dream. One of my favorite quotes is one by Gloria Steinem. What the future could hold and what each of us could become is limited mainly by what we believe. And finally, as a reminder, I have a memento for you to accept the challenge to continue to blaze a trail, for others. The 5 softball players that are here this evening are going to be passing out a Susan B. Anthony dollar to the young girls and the women here in the audience. Thank you. Okay, great, sure, yeah. Jeff, I have an introduction thing. I can take about 2 minutes. Do you want to do that first and have them come up? Okay, great, okay, great. Well, the 5 players that are here tonight, we'd like to continue with the induction where they continue passing out the coins. And again, I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for including the 1974 softball team. The 74 Springfield High School softball team members set the bar for all that followed. Their willingness to learn, work hard, team sportsmanship, and to have fun added in their successes. The support staff for the softball program, varsity and junior varsity, consisted of 1 manager, 1 coach, and fantastic supportive parents. There was an atmosphere of mutual respect and cohesiveness between the varsity and the junior varsity players. This was obvious when you witnessed the varsity players attending the junior varsity games, offering support and cheering on the younger players. Title IX was a game changer, and this group of young women rose to the occasion. In the years that followed, there was a huge increase in the articles in the press and the attendance at games. These young women took on the challenge that Title IX placed in front of them and have valued the life lessons learned in their athletic experiences as they move forward in their lives. The 1974 team record was 13-3. Of the 16 games, only 1 loss was to a Vermont team. The players scored 185 runs and gave up 58. Quarterfinal game with Rutland, Springfield 22, Rutland 1. Semifinal game with Essex Junction, Springfield 5, Essex Junction 0. And the championship game with Bellows Falls, Springfield 9, Bellows Falls 2. The 75 team record was 16-1, and that 1 was at the finals of the state championship game. In 1976, the team record was 16-0, 3 years, 45 wins, and 4 losses. 5 players were on all three of those teams. Pitcher, Mary Rose Jasinski, catcher, Cindy Curry, second base, Jean Chaffee, third base, Sherry Richardson, and outfielder, Candy Camel. 3 years with 693 runs around the bases and allowing 183. This evening, we have 5 players from the team with us, and I would ask them to come forward when their name is called. Co-captain and left fielder, Maureen Barton. Center fielder, Carlene Sheehan. Right fielder, Darlene Robinson, and the only senior on the team that year. Shortstop, Rhonda Rabtoy. And our 5th member, Debbie Muse. I'd also like to read the names of players that were unable to be with us this evening. Co-captain and pitcher, Mary Rose Jasinski. Catcher, Cindy Curry. First base, Sherry Lockwood. Second base, Jean Chaffee. Third base, Sherry Richardson. And sharing right field, Sharon Jones. The rest of our strong bench, Lori Harrington and Candy Kemmel. And our manager, Jennifer Barton. 13 players, 1 manager, 1 coach. Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, I apologize. I apologize. Morning. Okay, I guess I just stopped because my part of the job was over, right? I would like to introduce Maureen Barton to you, who also has a lot of thoughts to share with you.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? All right. So thank you, everybody. Good evening. I too would like to thank the Hall of Fame Committee for including our team this year in the Hall of Fame. I'd like to share with you tonight some memories of the special time back in 1974. First, I will share you some thoughts written by Mary Rose Jasinski. It is such an honor to be a member of the 1974 softball team being celebrated today. As I reflect back upon that magical season, I think of the old intro slogan to the ABC's Wide World of Sports, the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. For our season began losing to Burn Burton 1-0. Cindy Curry and I shared recently how we felt so bad after that game. But in retrospect, it was a springboard to what was ahead. Coach Nick took the loss and turned it into a learning opportunity. She strategically led us through daily drills to hone in on our loss and hold in on our skills. Hit the ball hard and on the ground would be something that she would say and stress. She challenged us to be smart players, taking advantage of situations such as double steals. And this great group of teammates responded. We worked so hard to improve each day, each game, living the motto, fortune favors the prepared. As our confidence grew, so did our team spirit. I will always remember sitting with my dear friend, Jean Chaffee, on the bus after each game, as I did for 4 years and during 3 sports, laughing about God knows what, but enjoying our time together. I simply cherish that memory. And I remember how much I looked up to my co-captain, Maureen Barton, who was so cool and exemplified the never say die spirit that carries with me to this very day. And again, Thanks to Coach Nick, we were ahead of the others in team fashion. We started wearing softball pants when other teams were still wearing shorts. Have you ever tried sliding on the pass in shorts? No wonder the opponents had raspberries on their legs. Psychological advantage, Cosmos. And finally, after winning the state title, riding the bus home, cheering down Main Street, we're state champs. Memories that last a lifetime. The players that stand here today are part of a team that achieved athletic excellence. Trailblazers who used the opportunity that Title IX gave us to go on a path that was never there before. Passionate, courageous, dedicated, selfless, and extremely talented, we blazed a trail and left a path for others to follow. It is truly a privilege to be associated with such a great group of women, champions forever. Thank you, Mary. Great words and great job with that. I too have some personal memories, such as throwing players out at home from left field, knowing that Cindy Curry was there, protecting the plate, ready to catch the throw and tagging that runner out. But more than the individual memories, I have strong lasting memories of knowing how fortunate we were to have had a great coach, not only for softball, but for field hockey and basketball. She worked with each of us to achieve our best as a player and as a person, and taught us what it meant to work together as a team. Thank you, Coach Nick. I have lasting memories of friendship that were made while playing together and spending lots of time together on and off the field. I have memories of the support of my mom, who was at every game, and writing letters to the editor to make sure our team and each player was recognized. I have lasting memories of playing sports before Title IX, when our moms made some of the uniforms, and then being part and playing during the beginning years of Title IX. We had a great coach, great players, and put together great teams. To have 3 of our team members, Coach Nick, Mary Rose Jasinski, and Jean Chaffee, inducted previously to the Springfield Athletics Hall of Fame, demonstrates the strength of this team and women's sports in the 1970s. Thank you all for allowing us to share some of our memories tonight.
If you haven't grabbed the program, it's on the back table there, and there's a great letter in there written by Mary Rose that you have to read the whole thing. It's just a great piece. It is a special group, there's no question. Also in this book is a ballot or a nomination form for Hall of Fame. If you have any thoughts and somebody you think we should be looking at, fill that out and get it back to us. It can even be emailed. There's a way to do it online too. If you drop us a note, we'll give you that link. And if you look in the back of the book, with all the qualifications of being a Hall of Fame, you got to check them all off. We make sure they're checked off. Okay. All right. So some of those who reaped the rewards of the Title IX, that these trailblazers, as they said, set, we're going to start honoring here. Traditionally, we do this alphabetical, so we can't say who our favorite is. I tried that with our kids at home. It didn't work. But so to get started, some of our inductees have speakers before them. Some don't. We actually, as a reminder, we remind everyone that we don't want to be here to midnight, but we got that bar, so maybe we do. We're not sure. We'll work on that. But anyhow, the first one up, I'm going to introduce a guy I hardly ever talk to. He has reaped the benefits of our softball programs for sure and turned it into a lot more. He's our Parks and Rec director. Andy and I talk probably every day. And also the mom of this athlete, I hardly ever see her either. we probably talk more than Andy and I talk, and has done a great job through this COVID stuff herself. We try not to give the name away, although we put it in alphabetical order, right? So anyhow, to say a few words, Andy Badika.
Thank you. Good evening, Cosmos. I'm not very tall, but a little bit taller than Rich. So, Nancy Nicholson is a hard act to follow, I'll tell you that. In 1974, I was a freshman struggling to make the JV baseball team while 5 of my classmates were winning a state championship with her. And just to put it in perspective. And also, I'm not afraid to admit I was scared to death of her. Now I have tremendous respect for her. I'm glad to see you later in life. Awesome. She was one of the first ones I talked to when I came in tonight to try to settle it down a little bit. Okay, so I'm honored and I'm excited tonight to have the opportunity to introduce Jessica Anderson Dodge as the next inductee to the Springfield High School Athletic Hall of Fame. My earliest memories of Jess come from a 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade softball league where I was a volunteer coach in Larry Partridge's Parks and Rec program. It was easy to see even then that Jess's athleticism, passion for sports, energy, and self-confidence would take her a long ways. Along the way, those traits helped her develop into a strong athlete with solid leadership skills. By the time Jess reached her senior year at SHS, she had become a three-sport standout. As a field hockey goalie under Coach Joy Benson, she led her team to the Marble Valley League title. More impressively, she was named the starting goalie for the state of Vermont in the Vermont-New Hampshire Senior All-Star Field Hockey Game. As an alpine skier, Jess was the captain of her team and also qualified for the Southern Vermont Championships. And then there was softball. There were a couple people that warned me when she reached the varsity level that she was pretty hard-headed and not always easy to coach. Those people were her parents. Jessica and I developed a pretty good relationship along the way. I decided as long as she could hit over 400 with power and make all the plays behind the plate, that I could live with her telling me how to coach the team occasionally or every day. It all worked out. Great catchers and great leaders are hard to find, and Jessica was definitely both. It's only 2 pages, and I'm on the second one, Rich. Jessica went on to St. Michael's College and became an outstanding field hockey goalie there under Coach Carla Hessler, who is here tonight, and I just met her tonight. Coach Hessler then talked her into ditching softball and playing goalie for her in lacrosse in the spring, and I've already forgiven her for that. That decision worked out pretty well for Jess. Heather Hartford, you finally get to hear me rave about a lacrosse player. You've waited all your life for this. Jessica's lacrosse accolades include being a U.S. Lacrosse All-American, being named to the Intercollegiate Women's Lacrosse Coaches Association All-Regional Team, playing goalie for the United States Women's College Lacrosse team in the Melbourne Cup, being the all-time St. Michael's leader in goalie wins with 30, being the only St. Mike's goalie to record a shutout. In lacrosse, that's pretty rare, isn't it, Coach Hessler? Yeah. And being their all-time goalie leader in minutes played. Not bad for a softball player who picked up the game as a college freshman. Today, Jess and her husband, Ed Dodge, who himself was a standout football player for the Cosmos, have a great family with a couple of growing boys. She's also a highly successful businesswoman in a leadership position. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jessica Anderson Dodge.
All right, we'll do the microphone swap here. So thank you so much, Andy, for the introduction. As I formally begin, I would like to extend my gratitude to Rich Sapak and the organizers who have chosen to induct me into the Hall of Fame. And I, for one, am humbled and honored by your decision, and I hold it with the utmost regard and respect. As we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Title IX, let's also celebrate 50 years of progress and development in providing equal opportunities to women like me, who have been given equal access to educational programs such as athletic funding. I am a proud product, as was described earlier, a proud product of this initiative, and I owe much gratitude to the trailblazers from 50 years ago who made this possible. While Springfield is no longer where I physically live, it always feels like home. Some may think it's the fresh air, the familiar faces, but what makes it feel like home is a deep connection to the pride, determination, and grit that this community honors and embraces on a daily basis. This is a small yet mighty town, and I'm always very proud to share that with everyone I meet that I grew up here. Many of my family members are here tonight, and I would like to thank my parents, Jenny and Kev, for their support throughout the years. My parents both embraced and shared in the love for sports, and I always strive to make them proud. My sister Annalisa is also here. My uncle Lance is here. So thank you to everybody in my family. I think my brother Jake's watching live on Facebook. I really appreciate everything that everybody has done. My husband Ed, I think the funniest part of the Hall of Fame was that my 11-year-old son, when he found out, said, "Well, what about Dad? What? Why isn't he gonna get in there?" You know. So maybe soon he will be asked to join. I think a lot of tonight is really about the coaches who spend their time, energy, and effort in helping young athletes, and especially young women, find the confidence to do anything in life that they want to do. So I want to take a little time to appreciate my coaches. I have the earliest memory of Coach Joy Benson. She was my T-ball coach when I was about 6 or 7. Coach B learned early on how to motivate me. And as the story goes, I stepped up to bat and she told me if I hit a home run, she would buy me an ice cream after the game. So I hit the ball. I didn't hit a home run, but I made it a home run because nobody could throw and get me out at that age. We had a very successful high school field hockey team. It still stings a little bit to talk about our senior year. We have Bethany Cassier and Christina Brown, who were part of that team. The ball did not go in. Bina and I were both there. No, but we had fun, and those memories will last a lifetime. In softball, as you just found out, Coach Bladika and Coach Mike Langdon were both really dedicated to the success of our team. We had a wonderful team. I think the biggest thing that Coach Bladika taught me is that it's not always about aggressiveness. There is some strategy behind the game of softball. So I really appreciate that from Andy. Coach Carla Hessler, Carla got the most of me. She spent 4 years with me in 2 sports. And as you heard Andy say, she lured me away from softball and asked me to help the lacrosse team at the time. What you didn't hear in that story is that shutout was the first game I ever played, and the team tackled me after, and little did I know that would be literally the only shutout that they would ever get. So it was a lot of fun. My mom, so a little bit of a story here, but when I was in 8th grade, I got cut from the basketball team. So obviously I was really disappointed. I actually had to ask my mom if it was Mr. Partridge who cut me because I was a little worried about that. But it wasn't. And what that sparked was really something that I've appreciated for a long time, which was a lot of fundraising in the town of Springfield. A lot of people rallied around starting the Alpine ski team. And Mr. Droust is here. Where are you? Yes. Coached, and he reminded me tonight that I had gone at Park Street into the back closet and found ski jackets from about 40 years prior and made everybody put them on and said, now we have ski jackets. We don't have to raise money for this. So I really appreciate that. My teammates throughout the years have always been amazing. And I also want to thank those from Springfield, 2 are here, which I'm excited about. and those from St. Mike's for being so driven and helping and also competing at the top level. Michelangelo once said, "Every block of stone has a statue inside it, and it is the task of the sculptor to discover it." And I truly believe that my family, coaches, and teammates in this community chipped away at that stone to help me become who I am today. The statistics show that even with all the progress we have made in providing equal opportunities for women, we are still about 135 years away from global gender parity. Providing opportunities to women is wonderful, but statistics show that women are still less confident in taking advantage of those opportunities. While men will apply for a new job if they're 60% qualified, a woman will wait till they're 100% qualified to put their name in. Athletics serves as a great way to improve the confidence of young women, and I would like to end again by thanking the Springfield Athletic Hall of Fame Committee for honoring the 50th anniversary of Title IX this year. Keep encouraging young women to play sports. Thank you. Okay.
And we have a gift. I don't even know what the gift is. We don't care. So we have like 5 people doing 5 different things, and I'm the last person to find out a lot. So great job, Jess. Jess brought some things up there that I think are important. One, I think that, Andy, you were just taking over that team, right? Back in that time? So his first year on varsity was 99, and last year was his last. He retired this year, and we're going to miss, I'm going to miss him coaching that team, that's for sure. But he's going to hang around and do a little bit. So it's not about Andy, but we just wanted to point that out. Jess may be back later to say something else. She may remember something. So, all right, moving forth. Again, I hope everybody can see the tie, the Title IX that all this brings, okay? The next person that comes up, he's just going to come and speak. Nobody's speaking for him, so I'll say a few words. When we do the final cut on what's going to be on the plaque, we have to reduce down sometimes more than we want to. The book actually has more than what's on the plaque. This guy had to be reduced the most. It just kept going. We could have put 3 plaques up. And a big piece is what he did to improve athletics in Springfield by starting a lot of youth groups. As you can see, and going back to Jess, it's not just about you did at Springfield High School, it's what you've done for Springfield High School and what you presented of Springfield High School after you left. Okay, like Nancy mentioned Mary Beth Bursky, she's playing softball at Wyoming, you know, and an All-American, and obviously she's in our Hall of Fame. So we look at a lot of things, and when we started reading through this, it was quite impressive what he's done for the town of Springfield. And then it hit me. There's a field down there named after him. Now, how do we miss that all this time? So anyhow, stepping up here, and I think he built a pretty good swim team here in Springfield. Have we named that pool after him yet? We got to Bob. Come on, Bob. Hey, so anyhow, stepping up, Mike Fabro.
Thank you very much. It's been a great event. I've seen so many people that I forgot I even knew. This has been great. I'd really like to thank the selection committee, in particular, Jess Martin, Joan Chaffee, all of the athletes and parents over the years. I coached swimming for 15 years in youth sports, and the amount of work that the parents put in and the kids put in, you know, helped me build those programs. And there's 3 other people I'd also like to mention. Clint Martin, he first hired me out of college for a job at the recreation department, and I worked there for 12 years, and he was a really guiding force for me for those 12 years. Another one is Jack Porter. He assisted me with the swim team in those early years and is a dear friend to this day. And John Lavoie, he helped me coach that swim team for probably about 8 or 10 years. So I'd like to bring that out. And of course, my wife, Pat, 42 years. She put up with a lot. Yeah. Yeah, it was a challenge. I was a lot of fun. And no, but it was great. And it all kind of circles back to Clint Martin, because I met her in 1978, and she was at the rec department and Clint hired her. So it all kind of came in a circle. And I'd also like to kind of have a little special shout out to some of the other inductees tonight, because I feel like I'm all tied in with them. Heather Hake Hartford, she played on our junior high girls softball and basketball team down there for 2 years. Patty Porter. Patty played junior high sports for me. I coached her for a year in high school basketball, and then she swam 12 years on the swim team. And then, of course, Larry, where's Larry Partridge? Larry's been a personal friend, and he also came and worked at the recreation department when I was there. So it feels like old home days here when we come here tonight. And again, I really like to thank everyone. I never really dreamed that something like this would happen, because most of my coaching was not done within the specific walls of Springfield High School. I did do some high school girls basketball, but it was feeder programs and the swim team. When I first got out of college in 1974, part of my first jobs were to coach girls junior high basketball and softball. At that time, the junior high did not have girls teams. You know, Title IX was only a couple years old. So we ran the programs out of the community center. Girls had to walk down generally from the school down to the community center for the practices. Our first few years, our teams were small. We eventually grew it so that we had an A and a B team and got more kids playing. And then we added sixth graders into the program. And then near the end, we even added fifth graders so we could have a fifth and sixth grade program. Joan Chaffee, where's Joan? She was the first fifth grader we incorporated into that basketball program back then. That feeder program I really enjoyed. We had a lot of fun, and I feel like we helped the high school program tremendously. But by far, I think my biggest impact was with the Springfield swim team. Jack Porter used to coach that team for a few years. He stepped down after the 1974 season. So again, through the Parks and Recreation Department, I took over in 1975, and I coached the team until 1989. Some of the success we had, as I look back now, is really kind of amazing, but it just seemed to just kept rolling, and you don't really realize what you were doing until it's all over. We had over 100 members on the team almost every year. Sometimes, I think there were a couple of years we had 120. Generally, we had more girls on the team than boys, but 100 members, 120 members is huge. And most of them ranged in age from 6 to 18. During that time, we lost one dual meet or one regular season meet in those 15 years. I was asked in 77 to be part of starting a Vermont State Swimming Championship. We held it at Dartmouth College. And in 1978 and 79, we won state championships those years. after that, it became kind of obvious that we needed to find a way to recognize the boys, the girls, and the team overall instead of just mashing them all together. So we broke the meet up like that, starting in 1979. And we continued to win championships in 1983, 1984, and 1989, my final year. And we also won a girls' individual championship in 1985. So needless to note, that's been a big source of my pride over the years. And all of the swimmers and parents that were involved in that, and a lot of them I've seen here tonight. Some of them even I lifeguarded with when I was in high school. So it's been great. And one thing that's really not lost on me, and I really appreciate this, is like I said, a lot of my work was not done within the halls of Springfield High School all the time. But the committee found it right to be able to nominate me and induct me in here tonight. And I really appreciate that because I think feeder programs and the swimming program was really important to this community over the years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks. We hope that the point here is what Mike did was an excellent feeder program, and it did get more athletes active. Do we need a break? No, I didn't think so. Okay, next up, actually has someone to speak on their behalf. And so the problem is Jess Martin writes everything. Stay right here. Stay right here. Jess Martin writes everything down for me, so I don't mess it up because I write no notes, and because I pretty much wing it and it drives everybody crazy. And I wrote down your name. Peg Crandall. Peg Crandall. That's right. That's what you told me. Peg Crandall. Well, take to the mic.
Hello, I'm here to help present Heather Hake, my dear friend, classmate, and teammate. I'll try to keep this short and sweet, kind of like me. I'd like to begin with an analogy. You may have heard about this guy named Tom Brady. He had the uncanny ability to be able to raise the level of play and sheer competitiveness to all of his teammates around him. He possesses the indefinable it factor. Well, I'm here to tell you, so does Heather. In the fall of 1981, our field hockey team was in a rebuilding year due to the fact that we had lost virtually our entire starting lineup due to graduation the previous year. We had no business making it to the Division I state championship game, much less say winning it, but we did. There's only one logical reason for this. We had the consummate team member and leader that possesses the it factor. Each and every one of us played our brains out and played above and beyond our wildest dreams. Heather was the wind beneath our wings and lifted us up with her and to and through the state championship game, thereby bringing the first ever Division I field hockey state championship to Springfield High School. Thank you, Heather. It was truly memorable and one heck of a lot of fun. So I thank you, my dear friend, for taking myself and all of our teammates along for the ride. I love you dearly, and you are ever so deserving of this exceptional honor. Thank you.
So I'm Bob Flint. I'm a member of the class of 1980. Peg's in the class of 82, by the way. And so Heather gets a tag team on this. I'm also the executive director of Springfield Regional Development Corporation. And it's nice to see the banners because we haven't been able to go in Dressel Gym the last couple of years. So you go in and you see that like two banners that are before us and the others that are around celebrating all the Cosmos championships. So over there's the field hockey one, which shows 81 and 86. So as Peg said, Heather brought that team along to the championship, but this is how much. She scored all 7 goals the team scored in the playoffs that year, including a record 5 in the game against Burlington. She also was an excellent athlete in baseball and softball in high school. So when it was graduation time, which actually is about 40 years ago to now, well, I'm older than you. She received the first Gary Huber Scholarship. Many of us in this room knew Gary, and the Hakes and the Hubers were obviously close, so that meant a lot. But as I was researching this and writing the application for her, I noticed the comment of the high school principal at the time, Bill Davis, who said that giving Heather the scholarship was not so much of a reward for past achievements, but a down payment on future accomplishments. So keep that in mind as we talk about the rest of what Heather's done, because obviously just her athletic achievements at Springfield High School merit this honor, but she's done so much more. So from Springfield, she goes to Colby Sawyer College. They don't have field hockey, so she does volleyball, and I'm sure she'd played down at the club, but okay, that's one thing, but playing it in college is something else. She became all-conference in volleyball. She became all-conference in basketball, all-conference in softball. In fact, she's in the Hall of Fame at Colby Sawyer, although our dinner was better tonight, I think. After college, with her family, she was in Georgetown, Mass, and started a youth lacrosse program that started her love for lacrosse. But then she came home to give back. She works, I have the honor and pleasure of working with her every day at Springfield Regional Development Corporation. And another Springfield alum, Doug Gurney, class of 82, is our board chair. For those that haven't been to town for a while, you drove in from the interstate and saw JNL's not there anymore. That's a project Heather is involved with right now and just giving back to her hometown. But she's also giving back to the next generation of athletes. She is the girls' varsity lacrosse coach at Hartford High School and has quickly built that into one of the state's top programs. She also has created a program called Mach 1, which is developing the next generation of lacrosse players in Vermont. And in both of those cases, she's helping to grow the skills, the technical skills of lacrosse, but she's also helping young women develop and grow, just like Heather learned when she was in high school, and understanding what interscholastic sports are all about. Sure, it's great to excel. It's great to win championships and honors. But really, athletics is a vehicle for personal growth on and off the field, and that's core to what Heather does as a coach. So when you go to see her coach, and yes, she does pace a little bit, but watching her interact with her team, it's clear that they respect and appreciate everything she does. And it's also clear she's taken to heart all the lessons that she learned from her coaches and her experiences at Springfield High School and cares about the players that she has the honor of coaching. As Peg said, she still has it and is more than honored that challenge that Bill Davis said 40 years ago. And to me, she's demonstrated what being a Springfield Cosmo is all about. So back in high school, they called her Toby. Tonight, we call her a Hall of Famer, Heather Hake Hartford.
I don't know how to follow those two. That's going to be tricky here. So first and foremost, I would like to thank the Springfield High School Athletic Hall of Fame Committee for all their time and efforts in organizing this wonderful event. A thank you to the Country Club for hosting us, and to the Student Advisory Council for the wonderful dinner, to my classmate, co-captain, dear friend, and as Mom said, old as gold, Peg Crandall, for all her kind words, and to Bob Flint for his kind introduction. Bob has been instrumental in my return to the Springfield area after 27 years away, and I am extremely grateful for all he has done for me. I would like to congratulate my fellow inductees. I am truly humbled and honored to have been chosen amongst this elite group to the Springfield High School Athletic Hall of Fame. I have a few thank yous I'd like to begin with. First and foremost, my family for all their support. My parents provided so much love and support from the time I started playing sports with the Park and Rec, all the way through my high school and college career. Very rarely would they miss a game. Dad took any opportunity he could to throw a softball with me or shoot baskets in the yard. I hold many fond memories of shooting hoops in the driveway under the lights at night with him. And a mother's endless support of the crazy schedule my brothers and I had with our endless activities, providing meals at all different times, the endless laundry of practice clothes and uniforms, her charismatic cheering on the sidelines at games, hosting team dinners and sleepovers, the list goes on. Most importantly, my parents are amazing role models. They have had huge influences in my life. I am beyond thankful for all the love and support. They are true inspirations in my life, not only in their role in my athletic career, but in my everyday life, work, home, community, as well as being the parent I am today with my 3 amazing adult children, Timmy, who is a pilot and serves in the United States Air Force, Shannon, who is in the health field and has blessed me with my first granddaughter and actually surprised me. She's here this evening and flew up from Florida to be here. And my youngest son, Matthew, who is in law enforcement in the Tampa area. I'm beyond thankful for all my parents did for me, not just in the sports world, but throughout life. I've been truly blessed. I would be remiss if I didn't give my brothers, John and Pete, some credit in my athletic career. I was always begging to play pickup ball with them. And in the neighborhood crew, they were 4 and 2 years older than I was and allowed me from time to time at mom's and dad's insistence to play with their friends. I'll never forget them letting me play softball, pickup softball at the East School and putting me basically right on second base, which for those who know softball, that's not a position. It's put me there just to appease the little sister and let her play. Only to have someone, and I don't remember who it was, hit a line drive, went off the pitcher's glove and right into my face. Broken nose, bleeding, all that. So, but it's, there's something to say about neighborhood pickup games and the lessons you learn on the street. I had to be tough and resilient, especially when your older brothers make it harder on you than anyone else. True sibling love. I'd like to thank all my teammates over the years. It takes a team to achieve a dream. Great things are rarely achieved by one person. Usually they are accomplished by a group of people, and when everyone is committed to the overall goal, teams move faster, are more innovative, and more successful. I was so fortunate to play with so many great athletes from many different classes, the likes of Shannon and fellow inductee Patty Porter, my little sis, Bonnie Gunn, Peg Crandall, Michelle Arguin, Cindy Taylor, Vicky Rio, Carolyn Baltz, Michelle Wessling, and 2 of my dearest friends that are no longer with us, Colleen Martin and Karen Cross. The list goes on and on. The memories are plentiful. Bus rides to away games, music by Queen blaring, team dinners, homecoming, ice cream sundaes on game days. With the adoption of Title IX, this provided young girls more opportunities to participate in organized sports. I was fortunate to start at a fairly young age playing softball and basketball with the Parks and Rec program. I have fond memories of playing third base back in the day for fellow inductee, Coach Mike Favreau. You were a great coach. All of us girls loved playing for you. Mike was very successful coach, laying the foundation for the future high school teams, not to mention his great success with the swim teams. One cannot be successful without great coaching. I was extremely fortunate to have 2 highly qualified coaches throughout my high school career. League titles, a state championship, all league teams, and MVP honors were amongst our accomplishments. Colleen Debish, my field hockey and softball coach, as well as Glenn Drost, who coached me in basketball, had a huge influence on me during my high school career. A good coach can change a game. A great coach can change a life. These 2 individuals had a tremendous impact on my life long before I even knew it. I began coaching my daughter in soccer at the age of 5. Young children, again, were given the opportunity to start sports at such a young age. I continued on to coach both my boys in indoor soccer and later started a lacrosse program for boys and girls, both youth and high school, in our hometown of Georgetown, Massachusetts, coaching the girls' high school program for 8 years. During this time, I also began working for a girls and boys lacrosse club program in the Boston area, running a competitive regional youth league and coaching and taking young women to college recruiting tournaments during the summer months. I've been coaching for over 25 years now, and I can attribute some of my coaching styles and philosophies to those of Coach Debish and Coach Drost. One major difference, I think Coach Drost can attest to this, is I pace way more than he did on the sideline on the court. So I am so thankful to have grown up in Springfield at a time when the opportunities for young women was building and thriving. My sports career has had such an amazing impact on my life. life lessons that are learned from sports, from the agony of defeat during a playoff game when you're at the bottom of the 7th inning, down by 1 run. You're up to bat, 2 outs, our tying run on second with a 3-2 count. You couldn't set it up any better. There I was. So on the next pitch, because you know it's the last pitch, and you hit the ball squarely into deep, deep left field, baseline, only for it to go into foul territory. And the opposing team's left fielder making this amazing diving catch to end the game. You take full responsibility for the game, and you hide in a phone booth crying, I kid you not, only to have your parents ask your boyfriend at the time to please find me and bring me home. True story. I did get a kitten out of the deal, and they named her Casey for Casey at the bat. Life lessons that are learned from these agony of defeats to the thrill of victory, winning a state title with nothing physically left to give at the final whistle and collapsing on the field with the victory. The everlasting image of the photo on the front page of the Burlington Free Press of my father running across the field with his arms wide open to hug me and congratulate me. Learning to lose with dignity and win with grace. Learning that hard work pays off and that sometimes things in life don't always go your way. And being able to adjust to face the challenges that life sometimes deals us. I've been fortunate to have the privilege of coaching not only my children, but hundreds of young women over 25 plus years. And I am thankful for these opportunities to have hopefully mentored and given many student athletes the same opportunities I had growing up. Title IX changed lives, had a tremendous impact on my life, providing opportunities that we may not have had. I am extremely thankful for all my athletic experiences here at Springfield High School, the coaches, the teammates, the classmates, friends, family, community support, great sports writers, the list goes on. And although I am currently coaching at one of Springfield rivals, the Hartford Hurricanes, and I am truly committed to them, please know that I am a true Cosmo through and through. Thank you again for this distinct honor. I am humbled.
I think since Heather is coaching lacrosse, we just kind of overlooked that she's at Hartford. Okay, till we get a lacrosse team, which pops up quite often for some reason. We got to look into that. Okay, I once was sitting on a porch talking to a fella, and he said, you know, you think about your life, and you think 30 years ago, was this part of your plan to be sitting on this porch talking to me and having a drink? So I don't think I had that vision. 30 years ago, I got off exit 7 and looked around and said, where the hell am I here? And I think within a couple days, I went to Parks and Rec because I was kind of interested in wrestling. I wrestled in high school and college, and knocked on a door, and the first person I met was this next person, which I'm not going to do a name because we want to stick to the program. But immediately he said, you need to go meet Bob Schweitzer. And because of that, Schweitzer got in the Hall of Fame before him, the way it works out. I want to do all this myself, but I can't. I have to hand it off to Joni Chaffee.
Got my props down here. I've known Larry Partridge since I was about this big. He was in my oldest brother Mark's class in school. When I met him, after seeing his haircut, I thought maybe I should ask for his autograph because I think he's on that show, The Partridge Family, with David Cassidy and Danny Bonaducci. See what I mean? If you can't see it, I'll put it on the memorabilia table for you. No, that was his hair. When I was in 7th grade, he was my softball coach. Always reminded me to extend my arm so I could hit the ball over Favorable Field's fence. When I came back from college, Larry became my mentor as he was the varsity girls basketball coach, and I was hired to coach 8th grade.
I sat in on some of his practices and saw how well he related to his team using humor and encouragement. Fast forward many years, and he became my colleague at Riverside Middle School teaching PE. I cannot tell you how often students would ask Mr. P to play a game of one-on-one or knockout, and he would never refuse. Even though he had to swallow about an Advil every time because his knees would make him walk like Frankenstein. Maybe Igor. Once in a great while, he would let them win, though. He never let those kids down. Whether he was air drumming, tapping his foot to the beat, telling jokes at a faculty meeting, or standing in as the partridge in the pear tree at the Christmas concert, didn't disappoint. Now that he isn't teaching anymore, when I see a former student, they always say to me, "Weren't you that other teacher, the one with Mr. P?" Speaking of former students, I asked a few for some thoughts on Mr. P. One student said, "Mr. Partridge has to be one of the best teachers, coaches, and advisors I've ever had. There's never any doubt that he was super passionate about his position and cared a lot for his students and athletes. He knew how to constantly motivate us to be better in every aspect and how to make school fun. That's not always an easy task." One of his former basketball players had this to say, "Before Larry was my coach, I remember him and Clint fondly at the community center, always committed to ensuring kids had a safe and welcoming place to gather. He was never without a friendly smile or a joke. As a coach, he was patient, supportive, and invested in both our lives on the court and off. Larry led with positivity, always positivity, and always with integrity. I don't think I ever saw Larry mad, and I don't know how that's even possible because we weren't the easiest bunch of teen girls to get along with. Excuse me, but he had a gentle, yet firm and consistent way of encouraging us to be better, and he led with kindness. Because of that, you just never wanted to disappoint him." And lastly, she wants us to know that from spaghetti dinners to Hoosier movie marathons to Oh What a Night, blasting at all times, to his bold move of switching women's basketball from the high school to Dressel Gym, where we could equally rally more community spirit, to a most highly anticipated trip to Barrie for the Final Four, and a heartbreaking loss by one, that he was simply the best. So without further ado, I give you Mr. P, Coach, Partridge in the Pear Tree, Larry Partridge.
You have to bear with me for a minute. My wife thinks I'm at the casino. So, I just want to videotape this. This is so cool. How do you run this?
I'll video it
Start.
for you.
Okay, here we go. Thank you for bearing with me. Just too darn cold up here to not do anything different. Okay. Wow. Whoops. I'm just so darn glad I don't have to go last here, just because of the entire amount of people that have gone before me, and I'm not going to say half of the nice things that they're going to say. Oh, I'm sorry. We're shrinking. So, oh, who didn't hear me? It's getting late, I know, and the bar's still open. Butch, okay. I first of all want to thank Mike Favreau. Because when Sharon and I were living down in Florida, I got this nice letter from Clint Martin say, "Hey, Mike's going into business at the Good Sport, and I'd like you to come back as assistant director." This is back in I think the late 80s. And so when we came back as assistant director, I was able to start coaching and things, but I did feel obligated to go to his store and buy 2 pair of cross-country skis as a thank you. Miss Chaffee, Joni Chops, the entire Chaffee family is here tonight. That's awesome. Thank you. Let's see if I can find where I'm supposed to be. Oh, and one other thing about the Parks and Rec, I see a lot of former students and athletes here tonight. Hopefully some of you still remember the green station wagon that Clint used to drive around. And we transported a whole bunch of teams in that car. Oh, that one, yeah, we did that too. But back on that green station wagon, I think we'd put entire teams in there, and back then it was legal. All right, I'll get to what I wrote down. All right. Number one, thank you, Joni, once again. Have known her since she was a little squirt, and then I had the pleasure of coaching her, working with her as well. Thank you to the members of the Hall of Fame committee for all of your hard work. From what I've been hearing tonight, this is a long, long process. I thought they were just like giving it to me because I'd been around forever, been out of town, and they wanted me to feel the love. But it's quite a process, and I appreciate that. This is truly an honor, and I'm very humbled. I know I've heard that word several times tonight, but this is to me the icing on the cake for a long career. Congratulations to the class of 22, the Hall of Fame class. As Mike said, all of us are family, and we're all intertwined in so many ways, even more so now and forever together. The first thing when Jessica, when I saw her name was there, I'm like, that is so awesome. I didn't think of her as an athlete. I thought of her getting saxophone lessons from my dad. I'd like to say congratulations to all the members that are already in. Unfortunately, I hadn't had a chance to get up here prior to this, nor figure out how to watch it on like the computer thing previously. The outstanding coaches, many were my mentors, including Richie and Bo. They inspired me to do what I loved doing for 35 years. To Tom Lovett, Dr. J, Bob Schweitzer, to some of my best friends growing up, call them the Bursk, Greg Bursky, Dave Ginter, and others. I heard Jeff Dick, his name here, that goes back. I used to go and watch their basketball games and things like that. It was really awesome. To the many incredible athletes, including the ones here tonight, and there's a bunch of incredible athletes here tonight. There's a bunch that I have coached in the past. There's still, like Jamie, you're still taller than I am, and I appreciate that. But it's just so great to see everybody and see everyone that's here, the athletes as well. Some of those same kids I have had the wonderful opportunity to coach at various levels. And like Mike said, a lot of my coaching was at the middle school level, and I always felt that was a very, very important part and place for kids to start. As feeder programs, we never told the kids that. It's like, hey, you're really talented. We want you to continue to play, but we made it fun so that hopefully they'd continue to participate in different activities at the high school. Thank you to Cosmos Nation for giving me this opportunity to, quote, find the job I love and never have to work a day in my life. Let's see, page 2, where am I? Hold on. And a quick Cosmo Nation story. Joel, this will be a quick story, wherever you are. It'll only take a minute. It involved a trip to San Diego many years ago with my wife Sharon and friends Paige and Laura Graham. We actually went out there to visit my brother-in-law, Mike, who happens to be here from San Diego tonight. He didn't fly in for this. He was already here. And play in a softball tournament. Mike and my father-in-law, Doogie, are here with me tonight. They're sitting right there. They're like my bodyguard dates. So we're shopping. We go to this little strip mall place, really nice next to the ocean. And we go into the store, and I'm asking a young lady, she's probably in her mid-20s, about an item behind the register. And she says, I know you. And I'm looking at her, are you crazy? You can't know me. I just came in a couple days from another state. And she said, yeah, you're from Springfield, Vermont. This is out in San Diego. And I said, yeah, I am. She says, yeah, you were my 8th grade soccer coach. And I said, wow. And it just makes for a small world. It turns out her mom took her and her siblings out to San Diego after her 8th grade year at Riverside Middle School. And this was like 8 or 9 years later. So Cosmo Nation is everywhere. Oh, let's see. I got screwed up. Almost, Joel. I've always believed that one of the keys to towards being successful is surrounding yourself with great people. I was fortunate to be around a number of them, including ADs Chip Dorwin, Tom Lovett, Mike Hatt, and Rich Sapak. I had to put Sapak's name in there. That list also includes assistants Christy Morris, Terry Perkins, Rich Fuller, Joy Benson, Sonny Bouchard, Joni Chaffee, and many, many more. And I thank all of you for helping me have fun in my career. I know I've used the word fortunate several times here, but I saved the best of the fortunates for last. I certainly could not have been more fortunate than to have the love, caring, and support from the same person for nearly 40 years, my wife and best friend, Sharon. I think she's watching, so I wanted to give a shout out to her. And honey, I'm not at the casino, as you can tell. I truly believe I would not be standing up here tonight receiving this award without her in my life. A huge thank you to my Shasha. One of the things that didn't come out tonight was about the girls basketball, women's basketball at the high school level was the fact that when they first started getting more serious about basketball, they chose to make the ball just a little bit smaller so the girls would have a little more success because apparently girls' hands are smaller than boys. Okay, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what I was told. But yeah, and after hearing the story about the 1925 basketball team, it's like that made Barry seem really, really non-important. But it really was. In closing, I'd just like to say that in sports and life, I've always believed that if you work hard, you prepare well, and have some fun along the way, winning is the icing on the cake. For me, tonight is definitely the icing on the cake. Thank you, Cosmos Nation.
So I can certainly say myself very fortunate to be friends with Larry Partridge. There's no question. And many people have said to me, the best women's coach, man's women's coach ever is Larry Partridge. He knew how to do it, and he got the girls to perform very well. So great job, Larry. Thank you. Thanks. And he actually was successful coaching boys baseball too. We don't mention the boys sports for some reason, Larry. Yeah. Again, another plug for the brochure, please. And there's a big form here to nominate somebody, but here's the deal. If you just know a name, put the name on there. We'll go find them. We'll do the work. But if you know stuff, that makes it a little easier for us. Jessica Anderson's here tonight because one day I walk in my office and there's a packet about this thick. And it didn't take us long to make that decision. So somebody did their homework for us. But so anything you can give us is great. Yes, we were quite thrilled when we opened that up. But anything you can give us is great. Even I think there was this guy in 1952 that wore like 2 different color shoes. We'll take it. We'll take a shot at it. We'll put Hugh on it, and he'll come back with a speech next week or next year. Speaking of next year. So we decided we're back here next year, and we already picked a date of maybe March 11th. So circle your calendars, start making your travel plans. As Larry said, Larry came in from South Carolina a few years back. We never know who's going to show up. People from all over the country. We put Kurt Blake in a couple years ago. He was an AD at Dressel at one point. His sons drove up from Washington, D.C. that day to surprise him. He didn't even know they were coming. So it's really great. We have college coaches that come. The very first one we had when we put Albert Gutterson in, the track coach from UVM showed up and had his gold medal and the cleats he wore in the Olympics. So we find some cool things and keep coming back. But we're going to stay here, we hope, if they have us back. Well, let's see if we pay them first. That may come into play here. So, all right. So we have one more person that I'm told does not have anyone to speak. So I'll do that part. And Then we have something special right after that we want to do. Patty, you ready? All right. So I think Patty's name has come up already as part of that 1981 field hockey team. Certainly there's been a lot of success. In the last couple of years, we've been struggling with our field hockey program. And somebody said, you probably should send your team over to Claremont, and maybe Patty will help them out. And if you follow Facebook at all, you'll see some pictures of our team with the Claremont team, with Patty, with our coaches, our new coaches past year, who is going to do a great job for us, a very experienced coach. With them just in a big huddle together after working out, and Patty conducting that. So Heather, when we have that lacrosse team, they'll be up. But we really appreciate our alumni to step out and help us with athletics. Patty.
All right. This one's going to be the shortest one of the night because I know you're all thinking about that over there. All right. Congratulations to all of the inductees tonight. It is truly an honor to be selected into the Springfield High School Athletic Hall of Fame. When I received the induction letter back in December, my first thought was, wow. And then my second thought, I'm going to have to get up and speak. I'm not one for speeches, so this will be short. Here we go. Thank you. And have a good night. Just kidding. Just kidding. When I think about Springfield High School sports, I think about how fortunate I was to have been able to participate in sports throughout my 4 years in high school. Field hockey, basketball, softball, and I have to include summer swimming. Coach Debish, Coach Drost, Coach Fabro, finding the words without getting emotional is tough. I am an emotional person. So thank you. I will always remember my teammates, the practices, games, bus rides, the wins, the losses, long-lasting friendships, so many great memories. The list could go on and on, but like I said, this will be short. High school sports gave me the opportunity to play in college. I was a 4-year field hockey, swimming, and a lacrosse player. As you can see, sports have played a big role in my life. And today, I'm the head varsity field hockey coach at Stevens High School. This fall will be my 20th season coaching at Stevens. I have been blessed to have coached my daughters, Megan and Jenna, who are here tonight, as well as coaching with my husband, Rick, for the last 10 years. And though I am a Cardinal, I will forever be a Cosmo. And finally, my family. I've always been inspired by my siblings. Lucky to have one here tonight, Kevin, who surprised me. Very emotional, wanting to be just like them, and very thankful for each one of them. I am extremely thankful for my parents, who have always been my biggest supporters with my sports in high school and in college. Though my mom and my sister are no longer with us, I know they are very proud. Thank you.
So Patty, being a true coach, looked at the clock and said, we got to get this thing back on. So great job. All right, we're not quite done. Something that we don't have in the program that I've been sitting on for way too long because I'm not very good at keeping these secrets. There was a challenge, and I'm going to stop right there and ask Jessica Anderson. And, you know, we stick to the high school names and pictures as much as we can because it really is about the high school time. So we know when we get married and names change, but we think it's important to stick to our theme, which is the high school athletic experience. Jessica.
Everybody's probably like, why are they letting her back up there? All right. So I'm very excited tonight to announce that with the support of the Athletic Hall of Fame Committee and Rich Sapak in his capacity as the athletic director for Springfield High School, I have funded a grant to support the enrichment of women's sports in Springfield. This community has given my family and I so much, and I believe that nothing should get in the way of a young woman reaching her full potential. The Springfield Athletics Department and our Booster Club have already done so much to better our athletic programs for young women, and this will only provide them with additional resources that will further support their initiatives. It is my hope that these funds can be used for two main goals. First, to increase the confidence of young women by providing them additional skills coaching, better equipment, and more role models. Second, increase the number of young women who engage in sport by paying registration fees for those in need, providing opportunities to participate in camps, clinics, and intramural sports leagues focused on fun. In 2021, Ernst & Young completed a study that showed that 94% of women C-suite executives had played a sport. Based on this study and others, the data shows that participation in athletics sets young women up with the confidence to excel on any path they choose. In 2022, this fund has been initially started with a donation of $6,000, with ongoing contributions as we see this influencing the confidence and success of young women in Springfield. These funds are available now to be granted, and more information will be provided to the coaches in the coming weeks. To kickstart this initiative, I reached out to Coach Bladika to find out what the softball team could use this year, and he was kind enough to provide me with some ideas. So I'm happy to present two sets of Jen Schro catcher's equipment, including two catcher's gloves, and then two DeMarini bat and an Easton Ghost double barrel bat. So we expect big hits out of those girls that are coming here. I hope the girls have a great season. This equipment helps them out. In addition, there are 5 Fitbit watches to help potentially help out young women competing in track and field. Money is a very small part of putting some of these programs together, and it will also take commitment and resources from the community. I want to thank Rich Sapak and all of those involved in making this grant possible. So Rich, please officially accept the gift.
I'm not going to accept it.
Oh, okay, girls. You're welcome. Good thing we had a photographer tonight. I know. Thank you. So a funny story, when I was getting the catcher's bags, I was like, wait, they get to roll them now? We had to carry this. They're like luggage.
I will now officially accept the check back. When we asked the students to wear uniforms tonight, they all wanted to wear a soccer uniform. We said, hey, you got to mix it up a little bit. So it's probably a good thing we had a softball uniform here tonight. Which is start practice? Well, officially, I'm not sure, in 2 weeks maybe. We seem to have a lot of unofficial practices. I don't know about them. All right. That technically concludes our program. What we really like, and we know everybody has different things to do, let me look at this. At one point, I was being told we're about 20 minutes behind. I think now we're about 10 minutes ahead. How about that? Patty will be getting an extra gift before she goes. Folks, we appreciate you coming. Next year is a whole new year. We start again. Take the booklets, please. Look those over. You know, it's important. That big G back there, I can't even begin to tell you how much work they do for us. That they don't charge us. Okay, the goalpost there in the football field, they put those things up along with Skyline Nursery. Brad is working with me on some other projects right now. We're gonna do some on Gurney Field and get a press box up there. These are things they come and just do. Okay, the bleachers at Brownfield, the visitor bleachers were not in very good shape. They took them down for us last year. Our next project is to replace the home side bleachers. Speaking of Booster Club, they'll be looking for about $400,000 in the next 2 months. I wish them well with that. We look forward to thanking them. All right. And going to Jessica's grant that she developed for us when it was presented. It was a great idea. This will be set up as a rollover line in our budget. So anybody in the future that would like to donate towards that, we will add to it. I know our students can't wait to take advantage of it. I'm sure I'll have lines at my office door. Our girls do a great job with athletics. They really appreciate what we're doing for them, and they get great support. We appreciate that. So we thank everybody for coming. Give yourselves a hand. Hang around and talk. Everybody wants to talk. You can't. We can't just leave, right? We can't. Jessica, actually, or Jenny Anderson, who told me she knows this by heart. Oh, if you don't have the book and if you don't know the words, then you're in trouble. Open the back page. We certainly got to do a Glory to Springfield. And who's my tone person? Hey, good morning.